All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Not Another Whiskey Podcast. Today, we're going to get down and dirty with some whiskey geekery with brothers Phil and Simon Thompson, aka the Thompson brothers. I'm sure everyone listening has heard about these guys. They've turned a passion for whiskey into a full-blown adventure, from their historic Dornoch Castle Hotel to making waves in the distilling world, not just with their own whiskey since 2017, but also some amazing indie bottlings that they've been releasing. And we're going to get onto that because they've literally just released one as we're recording this, which is super exciting. So we're going to hear some stories from them, hopefully get them to spill a few secrets about what they've been up to, and talk about their plans for whiskey world domination. So grab a dram, sit back and enjoy. Gents, Phil, Simon, Thompson, welcome to the show, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, pleasure to be here and to get it done this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. So to explain to everyone listening, I went up to see the lads, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and we had some technical gremlins with my microphone. So it was a bit of a nightmare. And this time, the good part or bad part, I don't know, we've got Mr. Nicholas Palaki here as well. So that's the bonus, right?
Partner in crime, right? Now we get to see what real interviewing looks like, Mitch. I brought my microphone. Well done.
Yeah, well, I did bring the microphones, but they were just having a little bit, I don't know what was going on with them. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But guys, again, thanks for coming on the show. I know you're super busy. But it was amazing hanging out with you guys last week, and thank you so much for your time. Phil, you spent so much time with myself and Fraser, just taking us around, showing us everything that you guys are up to. Simon, didn't really chat to you that much because you were too busy ripping off a condenser and cleaning it, which again,
fixing
unbelievable
things
to see. You guys are so hands-on. It's incredible to see what you're doing up there. I'm kind of sad that I didn't spend the night over there with you guys. I know Fraser did. I had to cut out and come back early, but I think my liver's pretty happy about the fact that I didn't manage to do that. How did it end up anyway? Because I think you guys had your importers in, right?
It was pretty okay. So we had our Japanese importer with some Japanese buyers and bartenders, and our Taiwanese importer. Everyone was here at the same time, and we made the mistake of inviting Fraser in for a couple of drams after dinner. But it was fun. It was really good fun. I was racking my brain there to think, did I stay up late or didn't I stay up late? And that might say it all.
It's
always fun when you have to go back through the distillery security camera footage just to figure out how good a night you truly had.
It's like when we were ambassadors, right, Nicholas? Remember that? You had to Google the restaurant or the bar just by looking at your receipts. You're like, I don't remember being there. Who was I with? And you had to Google the bar, and then you see the imagery. You're like, oh yeah, I got it now. I got it. But I mean, guys, it was great to see not just the distillery, but obviously Dornoch Castle Hotel, and hear the stories about you guys, growing up in the castle and actually working there at quite a young age. I think the first thing I want to get into, just for everyone listening, when did that transition kind of happen for you guys from going, right, okay, we're not just going to do hospitality in the hotel, we are going to move into whiskey? So talk us through kind of how that happened and how the conversation went.
Yeah, it must be about 24 years ago now. Our parents took over the business, and when we took it over, they kind of inherited a decent whiskey shelf. There's a few good malts on there, maybe 20-something malts, including a couple of higher-end stuff. And, Phil was probably 14, 15 at the time. But, we got to taste some of those, and then working in hospitality, staff comes, staff goes. Your barman's got a gambling problem, so you end up becoming the barman for a season and stuff like that, and having to do the orders, and then you're tasting things to figure out what to order next. And that was kind of part of the introduction. Then it got to the point where we're, ordering whiskey from Gordon MacPhail Trade, and you're like, oh well, I'll maybe tack one on for myself as well. Something to have in the house, and then that becomes, well, that's quite, got access to trade prices here, and started putting together a little bit of a shelf collection as well to supplement. And, one thing led to another. You start adding more shelves onto the bar. We redeveloped the place and changed the location of the bar, so it's much larger. Filled up all the shelves with whiskey, started adding more shelves. We started going off to auctions fairly early on. So this is before all the online hammer auction, all the online auctions you have now. It was live auctions that you had to be there in person, or if you're important enough, you could be a phone bidder. So we would go to live auctions all over Scotland and even north of England, do our research beforehand, figure out some very set rules on what we're going to buy, mostly for buying for the bar. And quite often these things you get good deals where you could buy an 18-year-old bottle of 1980s for cheaper than you could get the current one. So we always had those rules in mind. And then as we started buying these older and older variants, you're like, oh shit, this Highland Park 18-year-old bottled 1980s is a lot better than the one bottled, late 2000s. And you just started to gradually, by exposure, get a little bit of a love and a taste for hunting the older bottlings. So we always be super interested in grabbing stuff, bottled 1980s, bottled 70s, older independent bottlings. And that took us further and further back in time. So yeah, it just kind of snowballed out of control. And along the way, we're buying for ourselves at auction as well. Phil started collecting along the way as well. He got the bug. And
I consider it buying more than you can drink.
Yeah, it's stockpiling. I think it did start a bit of collecting, but then somewhere along the way, I just decided I wasn't a collector anymore, and it was a stockpile. So you can do things when friends come round. You do events with friends. Maybe you do a tasting. We've got the bar, so we can open something for ourselves and put the rest of the bottle on the bar. So we kind of consider it a bit of a multi-use stockpile. We don't. It's been a long time since I've sold anything at auction. Maybe like 12, 15 years, something like that. I did sell one bottle actually.
Simon was famously an Edward Hour collector. He had a collection of Edward Hour.
I had a very large Edward Hour collection way back. I had a pretty extreme collection of Balblair as well. So
yeah, we still have the Balblair because we draw on that stuff for the bar all the time. So it's
I mean, I understand Balblair because it's not a million miles away from you guys. But where did that come from?
Sorry, the Edward Hour was a bit of an education thing because do you remember when they did I think they still do actually, the Straight from the Cask series?
Yeah.
How many? It's like maybe
like brightly coloured little 50 centilitre boxes. Boxes in the box.
There was like 16 different ones or something.
There was more than that, I think, because they're all different cast types and different cast finishes.
Yeah, there's multiples of each, but I had a minimum of one first edition of each one as a shelf collection, and then plus one for drinking. And you just worked your way through all these they were all different cask types, so you worked your way through whatever it was, 16, 18, 20 different cask types that they released.
Yeah, it would have been better if you'd started collecting Ardbeg. It was like,
yeah, it would be good to do that, or spend a little bit extra at the time and start collecting closed distilleries or something.
But the guys at Edward Hour, they've got like a wild collection of whiskies as well because they've got Signatory. So that's all the same stuff. So it's all like the same passion, right? The same passion that you've got is exactly seems what's ingrained in them. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
And they've been making excellent whiskey. And I know,
the modern Ballachin Edward Hour is very good. I know it has a bit of a bad rep for that kind of early 90s. There's some of the 70s, there's like notoriously soapy batches from the 80s, from the 70s. But like modern Ballachin Edward Hour is brilliant whiskey, really well made.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Loch Lomond that used to be like bottom tier single malt. And at some point, circa 18 years ago, the production really started to change, for sure. And you're seeing that now with such good quality, sort of sub 18-year-old Loch Lomonds.
I've got a bottle. Gary Mills gave me a bottle at the weekend of an 8-year-old from First World Bourbon from Chardonnay yeast, and it's really good, nice and fruity, lots of character. So yeah, they're definitely doing a much better thing now, and also being blended well. I think a lot of the things with these distilleries, it's just like the way that the inventory was being treated, and you think we saw that with Glentown, we saw it with Loch Lomond. So when you start looking through the inventory, treating it in a more kind of considered, concise way, then you have a better outcome for the consumer.
Yeah, but big props to Loch Lomond for the biggest turnaround in the industry.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Really, they've gone from bottom tier to
Some of the best in the world.
The enthusiasts know.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. You guys, like, so your distillery started a successful crowdfunding campaign. Like, what were your initial reactions to the support that you received? And did you face any kind of unexpected challenges or surprises along the way when putting that together?
So many.
Don't bring back the trauma.
So many. It's only
just started crying when you asked that question.
Simon's just taking a glass of whiskey in his hand, so that tells us everything.
It's like, it's not easy. Like, there's been a million moments where you've just been like on the edge of despair, but I think we're both from a hospitality background, and you guys know hospitality really well. There's something like that you just have to get through it. So there's like, it teaches you this really to be really fortified and just deal with problems. And yeah, I'm really good at filtering stuff out. So if we had something that was shit, that was really bad, that went down in the distillery or a big problem, people talk to me about it 3 or 4 years later. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. It's just, filters out my brain. But yeah, I think probably the thing that causes the most trauma in the early days is, so the original crowdfunding, we literally sat in the bar after work one night and made a crowdfunding video and didn't really anticipate what would happen next and the kind of level of support that we were going to get from sort of global whiskey geekery community. But we'd been dealing with this guy who was like doing an online crowdfunding platform in Scotland, and he was just a bit of a shyster, to be honest, now looking back in hindsight. And he hadn't set up for international payments. He didn't have any pathway for international payments.
He said he had.
Yeah, he said he had. So we're like, day one, going live with a crowdfunding, boom, and it's just like, first thing you get is like a million messages being like, oh, hi, I'm in the Netherlands, none of this is working. And you're just like, for fuck's sake, it's brutal. So we had to we created a back of house on our own website and uploaded all of the crowdfunding items as products and just had the sales going through our website. So it was like, I don't know, I suppose it's a testament to the trust that people had in us, that they were willing to make that purchase through our platform and not through a third-party platform. Yeah. But yeah, that was a massive problem because it could have really put us off the rails. Yeah.
We had it built and launched within a couple of hours.
Yeah, literally sitting there just uploading the data.
Screw these guys. They're not getting any fees.
Yeah.
Because they can't do what they said they were going to do, and so we had to immediately relaunch with about 2 hours of work to build our own shop to, so you remove that security of the intermediary because, they receive all the money, you hit your target and they transfer the money over to you. But we blasted through our target in a day or two. It was pretty fast.
It was crazy. It was nice. Besides that, there's been multiple moments of complete despair or like, we've had only a few explosions, so that's not too bad.
Probably one explosion. You can imagine. We did this with we built it ourselves with no external consultant, no borrowing, just money we got from the crowdfunding plus our savings plus we sold our house. We traditionally we've been very debt adverse. So we got it up and running, got the cash flows established, we had decent sales in the gin, pretty quickly accidentally became independent bottlers along the way. We got requests to do pan-independent bottling, and we've done a few bottlings previously for the likes of our bar, a few friend group things, but nothing serious. And so we got that up and running, got the facility up and running, everything worked, liquids start coming, we spent quite a long time making full from scratch single malt gin from like November 2016. And we didn't lay down our first cask of single malt until July 2017. Essentially that whole time we're effectively playing with mashing fermentation regimes to really nail that before we laid down our first cask. And also to establish the cash flows on the old Ginaroos as well then.
I'm pretty sure the original models, that was like peak gin time as well. So it's like your financial models, like, you just sell gin and then money comes in and you spend that on making whiskey. It's that simple. And of course, that happens in real life.
But what I noticed about, hanging out with you guys when you're up there, you guys are very, very hands-on. Like I mentioned earlier, Simon pulling the condenser off and giving it a good clean and fixing it and everything. And you said yourself, you guys built the distillery from scratch. So as brothers, how does it work with the dynamic between you two? Who does what within this relationship to make it work so successfully?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We get asked that all the time. I suppose it's like, sometimes you need a hammer, which is me, and sometimes you need a scalpel, and that's Simon. And both can be used to destroy something. But no, we work pretty well together. I think Simon can do a lot of stuff that I can't do very well, and probably, there's a lot of stuff that I do fairly well that Simon can't. And we've got a great team around us who also kind of support that structure.
One of these random motivational things cropped up the other day. One of the tech guys talking about what the perfect founder looks like for like a startup company that's going to go to them and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite insightful listing off all these characteristics, which are super rare to find in combination. I'm like, oh shit, well, I'm not this, I'm not that. Phil's not this, Phil's not that. But then it's like, actually, because we're almost polar opposites in so many ways, I was like, we're actually, between the two of us, we've got all of this covered. As long as what I always say is, as long as we use the appropriate person for the appropriate problem, or sometimes you have to open with a scalpel, and if the scalpel doesn't get through, then you got bring out the hammer, and sometimes you need a scalpel to clean up after a hammer, and vice versa. So.
Well, I tell you what, boys, I don't want either of you doing surgery on me anytime in the near future. Because if that's my choice, the scalpel didn't work, bring me the fucking hammer. So, guys, like, after obviously you've got your distillery side of things going, but you've also got your independent bottlings, and chat a little bit about how you select the cask for these bottlings. Like, what have you learned through this process, and does that influence what you're doing with your own distillation?
Yeah, I think one of the main moments that kind of improved our independent bottling was bringing everything on site into Dornoch.
Yep.
So we brought it up here probably 2019, around 2019, everything came to Dornoch.
Yeah.
So we became sort of what we describe as full process independent bottlers. So we have the ability to collect our own casks if required. We can move very quickly. We learned a lot about dilution and filtration, tried to take sort of methodologies from different industries, so like dilution from cognac, and thinking about filtration in a bit more kind of careful, considered way, step dilution. So all this sort of stuff came about when we brought independent bottling in-house, and it really kind of, because we are so hands-on with it, we're really interested in all aspects of minutia to the actual, how does the liquid get from being in the cask out to the customer at the far end. So we do all of that in-house, and there's lots of little tiny control measures that we can add, like 1 or 2% gains on, or we think we can.
But the real benefits, you're taking on a whole bunch of extra work by bringing everything in the house. The vast majority of independent bottlers work through third-party warehouses, third-party bottling halls, and you guys will probably know, you request a sample, and maybe it comes in 2 weeks, maybe it comes in 2 months.
Yep.
You need something moved. There's a whole process that happens to that. A lot of stock's sold blind, so it might take you a while to organise the movement of your stock to your friendly warehouse. Then you've got to wait for the samples to come. Then you decide what's happening. Whether it needs recast, whether it's regains market, whether it's market ready, maybe it needs more time. So that whole decision-making process takes a long time when you're doing everything under contract. Whereas bringing everything in-house massively sped up our reactivity decision-making. So we get a parcel of stock through from, say, one of the big distillery companies. It arrives, you re-gauge them all straight away, you take samples, you taste them all, and you're like, bang, this one is good to go, market ready, let's get a label organised. This one probably needs a little bit more time. This guy, let's try a recast on it, stick it in a dechar rechar and forget about it for a few years. So there's that really fast decision-making process and reactivity. So we can move very quickly with stuff compared to doing everything at third-party bottling halls, warehouses, etc. We've even got our own bonded transportation. It's just a transit-sized van. But if we really need to go and grab 2 or 3 casks, something high value you want to move fast on, then we can just go and get it.
It also helps us keep the costs really lean as well. So there's third-party bottling charges, handling charges, consolidation charges. All of these things really add up and squeeze on the margin. So if we can provide, we can do it a little bit more efficiently in-house, and we can keep the margins as tight as possible in these elements, then that helps the customer at the far end. And that's fundamentally why we're doing it, is to get good liquid out at fair prices. And it was once described to me by a friend of ours who's an independent bottler as like, he writes emails until stock turns up at his door. And that's kind of, how a lot of modern independent bottlers work. It's just kind of there's a bit of disconnect between the warehouse, the bottling, the re-racking, the distribution, direct customer sales. All of that's a bit disconnected. It could be done. You could do it from a laptop anywhere in the world. So it's nice to actually have a handle on the stock, and it keeps everything very lean from a cost perspective.
Yeah. So it's sort of snowballed out of control, but it's good.
But it was so cool to see, like, when you showed me around, Phil, and it was amazing to see your warehouse, see your bottling line, see how you literally do everything on site, which, like you say, is a rarity. On that kind of point, how do you feel about the current state of play when it comes to independent bottlers right now? What do you see is the future? Is it looking bright? Are there some dark clouds on the horizon? What's your opinion on what's happening at the moment?
So obviously the dark clouds are closing in, but it's a time of great opportunity. And we've been expecting this for a while. You don't know which bit of weight's going to tip the balance, but you can see that if you pile enough weight on, something's going to happen. So you can have timed it to when it's happening. But we've been expecting it. We've been planning for it accordingly for a while. And so for us, it's a time of great opportunity because of that reactivity we just talked about. How quickly we can do stuff because stock availability is up, prices are a little bit more negotiable, shall we say. A lot of the list prices haven't changed, but if you can shift liquid at reasonable volume, then there's discussions to be had. There's a lot more flexibility in terms now, so all these things are great for us. So whoever can convert, and for us, we can sell liquids as long as it's good and the price is right, then it moves. We've got really good reactive feedback on how our sales go. Obviously, we've got the ballot system, we've got our direct sales, and if something's missing the mark by 10% on price, you can see the ballot entries aren't as strong as for like previous ones, and then you have to start making decisions for this. Well, this type of liquid needs to be this kind of price, but also we also come at it from our own point of view. What price would we like to see that at? That's
always our decision when we're independent bottling, is like, I'll work out all the margins, and as a group we'll have a conversation. We're all whiskey fans, whiskey consumers, and we're like, how much should this be? What do we think this should be on the shelf? How much would you be comfortable to pay for this bottle? And if our margins don't make sense, we can be flexible on them. We can bring them back down, which is a lot of bigger companies will have predetermined margins that they have to stick to, and that's it. A degree of flexibility. Whereas, there is things that we've put out at almost break even, because I'm like, I really want to bottle this. I see it as being a net benefit from almost like a marketing perspective. If we get it at a better price than everyone else is charging for the liquids, that turns everyone's heads onto what we're doing. And also,
keeps retailers happy, keeps your importers happy, keeps the customers happy.
I felt for the past few years as kind of the flippers and the scalpers and the sort of non-true whiskey lovers have kind of dropped out of the market a wee bit. You've kind of seen this softening of excitement in the market. The true whiskey lovers are kind of like, coming to a cost of living crisis, and people have less money, and they've never had so much choice. Never had so much choice. The true whiskey fan is also like, they're smart, they're savvy, they knew where the prices were, they were looking at the shelf, they've got 200 bottles, why get bottle number 201 at this point in time, unless it's excellent liquid at a fair price. That's really, going to be the key moving forward. But I think we're heading in some, it's kind of, you're saying the dark clouds are gathering, but it's like, dark clouds and rain can cause flooding and total destruction, or it can also create germination for seeds, and things can grow from there. So it depends on kind of what your outlook is. And I'm probably a little bit more on the doomy side of things at the moment, but I'm also feel quite comfortable with our own business. We're going through fundraising, we're building a new distillery, and I feel really comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing it, how we're presenting it, because from our perspective, we always think about longevity in it and heritage and how we're going to build that. It's not about building a distillery hoping to flip to Pernod or Diageo or any of the bigger companies. And I know that's a model a lot of companies follow, whether it's any drinks company.
And you think about the amount of money raised by distilleries in the last 10, 15 years, new wave distilleries. The best time to invest in a distillery wasn't 2-3 years ago at the peak. It was way before that, or post peak, if you can figure out when the when that leveling out point is. So,
but a lot of the reason bigger, institutional investors are investing in distillery companies is because, you've had this massive growth in the past few years. Follow the trend line, but also the way it's being pitched by a lot of distillery companies is, we're going to take it to year 10 and then we're going to look for either an IPO or we're hoping that, you look at, for example, Lake's deal, 12 times revenue, and, a lot of
71 million
pounds, including 10 or 12 million pounds of debt.
Yeah.
It's like, the thing,
the whiskey's good.
there's only going to be so many companies that are going to get a deal like that, and you look at the number of distilleries across Scotland, it's like, what is the end goal of the company? Who's leading that? Who's driving that? What are they trying to do? But yeah, I think there's, I don't want to be cynical about the whole thing, but I think the industry's, heading for some pretty tough times.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to call our current proposition. Now we're doing some early stage seed funding. Just about to.
We're literally shaking the tin right now.
Yeah. Podcast.
Yeah, guys, you can just go onto my website and there's a button there that you can click. I will take in international payments for you, boys.
That was almost as tough as your promotion for your Japanese whiskey.
Well, we've been quite easy going so far. So all the guys involved at the sort of seed phase, they're people we do business with, people we've got a relationship with,
whiskey people as well, which is nice,
and friends of those business contacts, people we do business with. Although we did have two random fans of ours who were just one was up visiting, one was put in touch by a friend, and just made an offer we couldn't refuse.
Well, they were like,
they just came in and moved fast.
So they were like, I see you guys got planning for a distillery. I take it you're going to be fundraising, and here's my card. And yeah, but that was the easiest convert we've had, because they're basically whiskey people.
Yeah,
they understand the proposition already.
They already know what you do. They're fans. They're quite bullish on the future of what.
Oh yeah.
On a note, guys, what is the plan for Mitch told me a little bit about it, but share with our listener, what is the plan for the new distillery and visitor centre? Can you tell us what you're going to be doing? Go on, give me your pitch.
Pitch. Well, you see, we can go off on some pretty boring tangents here because there's a lot of weird stuff we're up to. But yeah, we've got the baby distillery in Dornoch with one of the smallest outputs in Scotland, no holds barred, whatever it takes to make the style of whiskey we love, which is pretty expensive to make. The new distillery is significantly larger, so the equipment capacity is circa 400,000 OLA, but we're aiming to run about 240,000 OLA, which is the energy infrastructure capacity or the on-site off-grid energy infrastructure, because we're going to be running her from a on-site ground-based solar farm. The equipment is oversized so that we can essentially work with our annual energy production curve. So double shift max size production for 3 to 4 months in the summer, and then that tails off throughout the year until you're doing smaller single shifts at the December, January, February. So it's pretty wild that, because you're leaving capacity on the table, but we do have the ability to supplement to make up the difference if we wanted to push production further than that 240,000 OLA. But maybe makes sense for us to do that year one once we get the recipes fully dialed in. But yeah, it gives us an option in the future, gives us headspace if we wanted to produce more. But we can afford to produce circa 240,000 OLA from cash flow, which because we've got 7 years of Dornoch production behind us. We're putting in new facilities so we can expand the independent bottling operation, expand the gin operation, expand the blending operation. So we've got the cash flow to, we think, support 240. Might be able to support more if things go well, which is different from a lot of distilleries, because not only do they need the capex to get up and running, build the distillery, get all the equipment, but you need a good chunk of money to run production for 4, 5, 6, 7 years until you can hit your break-even point.
Yep.
So we can support our own production. It's just the capex we need. So crazy off-grid distillery. The production.
I kind of feel like, if you're going to go for a headline in the pitch, it's like solar powered distillery in the north of Scotland. And what's going to happen from there is anyone you're pitching to is going to be like, no, you got to tell them more. Either way, they've got to ask more. They're not going to dismiss it.
Important justification to that. So to make that work, it's been a little fantasy of mine for quite a long time. So I've been designing planning process to have an off-grid distillery. And the key to that is getting the kilowatt hour per litre of alcohol right nailed down to as theoretically low as it can go. So we've been designing distilleries with the new generation very high temperature heat pumps in mind, which are now commercially available. They weren't commercially available when we started this process, but you saw the numbers come through from things like the European heat pump competition with all these experimental models running at crazy high temperatures and crazy high COPs. I'm like, okay, if I can buy one of those, then we can do this. But there's a whole lot more to it than just strapping a very high temperature heat pump to the side of it. So headspace on your equipment capacity, thermal buffering, very high temperature heat pump, unique patented equipment to optimize for that scenario. Yeah, it's probably going to work.
I think what's really interesting on
That's probably
that, Simon, is
Yeah.
that you guys have obviously looked into this in such detail, and you're first and I'm going to say something here that's kind of controversial, and you'll probably correct me, but it seems like you're thinking first and foremost about sustainability. But then what are you guys going to be producing style-wise? I mean, I'm assuming there's been a load of thought into that. Is it just one particular style, or are you guys going to go like Hollywood and just go for a load of different experiments?
So we've already been running tests because we've got so much knowledge and data and things that we've developed in-house for Dornoch Distillery, but we can't produce Dornoch Distillery at that kind of scale because we go bankrupt. Dornoch's just way too expensive to produce. When you're talking those kind of numbers, we wouldn't be able to afford that level of production. So we've been doing some test batches at other distilleries, doing some collaborations with other distilleries where we're playing with them, and we're kind of sweet spotting between some of the things we do at Dornoch and more modern standard production, or what they do in-house there. So some of the results are looking amazing in terms of spirit quality so far, and we're bringing in elements of Dornoch production, and we're running at yield levels which are below the modern standard, but acceptable, at cost of production which is higher than the normal, but acceptable, with a quality of liquid which is exceptional.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find those sweet spots. But in terms of answering that, we'll be year one, we'll be working through a basket of different styles. On that scale as well, Phil wants it almost like having it to have a bit of a palette to work from for blending up for core releases, because that's kind of scale you're looking. It's not all
kind of looking at like what they do, Yamazaki, different marks, different makes within the one facility that then you can take and blend as one single malt at far end, or Caribbean rum distilleries, for example, with different styles of spirit. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do, and find that kind of that balance between what we've learned at Dornoch and what is kind of commercially viable at X number of bottles per year at scale. Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And talking about blending here, I just saw yesterday, we alluded to this at the top of the show, you guys just released a new blended whiskey yesterday based on a famous supermarket's old value brand, which I absolutely love that.
I had no idea, Your Honour.
Of course you had no idea.
It's been 12 years since they discontinued that branding, but I think it holds a special place.
If it was related to that,
yes, if it was.
I think that whole proposition, so the key for us, and this goes in line with how we think about the whiskey market at the moment with kind of inflated prices. So what we find is people just want really good liquid at a fair price, and they're the true consumers who are maybe opening a bottle a week, a bottle every couple of weeks, sharing it with friends, doing tastings, going to events. These are the people that are our audience. We're not looking for that one individual high net worth individual sitting on a boat who might buy a 20 grand bottle because his friend recommended he does it or he wants to show off. We're looking for the day-to-day whiskey consumer who's always interested, who's going to be there in 10 years, going to be there in 20 years. They're still going to be interested in what we're doing or what's available on the market. So there's an 8-year-old blend of 2 North Highland malts, which we try and represent the North Highland pretty well, especially Sutherland, and bottled at 44.5% alcohol, £35 a bottle. There's a little touch of 2% sherry cask matured 9-year-old in there, just to kind of give a bit of balance. And yeah, it's excellent liquid, and the price is fair. We've sold loads of bottles in the past 24 hours. It's been great, and the reaction's been great for people.
Yeah, we didn't run it as a ballot because there's quite a lot of bottles. We didn't think there's any need for a ballot on it, but there almost was, because I think our own stock's going to be gone in the next day or two.
But it's kind of like rewinding to kind of reactionary. But, our company, we're really reactionary in what we can do as a bottling company. And you kind of see what's in the zeitgeist, and you look at what people are talking about in forums and, and online. And it's important to us that we kind of, we make sure we look after that kind of core consumer who's sitting there going, do you know what, I'm really pissed off with whiskey prices. Like, things I used to buy for this price is now this price. And then I've had emails coming in for trade suppliers from bigger whiskey companies that have backtracked on pricing pretty substantially, like 30-year-olds going down by £70 ex-VAT trade price a bottle and stuff. They're like rewinding the prices back. And they've kind of, which isn't kind of what you want to see. You want to see them saying, we've overshot our pricing. The going was good, and our 30-year-old sold out in seconds. But actually, turns out that the people who were buying our 30-year-old weren't really buying it because they were really interested in whiskey. They were maybe interested in what's the return on it, and it was the new thing that was in the zeitgeist that people were talking about on investment forums and things. So,
I think that's the amazing thing that you guys do is the pricing of your blends and your whiskies are unbelievable. I remember your new blend that just came out just before this, just trying that, and I think that was around about the £45 mark, if I'm correct. Actually, 36, I think it was.
So we've got a couple at the moment. We've got our Lowry's Reserve, which is about 45 quid, but that started with 29-year-old Strathclyde representing about 50% of the blend. 20% of the blend. 29-year-old Strathclyde, then it's made up of mostly, it's made up of mostly 8 to 12-year-old malt whiskies, some sherry mature, some matured in beer casks and things, and we're like 45 quid a bottle. It's like, we're just trying to put stuff out at fun prices, but there's going to be more opportunities for us and other blending companies and looking at what's happening in Scotland to make exciting liquid at really fair prices.
31.20. Oh wait, no, that's sorry.
So going off on tangents.
No, so you I was just going to ask. So you guys are clearly whiskey makers and for whiskey lovers, right? That would be the way I would describe you. You are the ultimate whiskey maker for the ultimate whiskey lover. Like, you are what people would want. The uber geek in the world, and even the novice can get into your whiskies and go on a huge journey to taste things that, like you said, there's not a barrier to entry financially for a lot of people to come along and get into your whiskies and then be hooked on what you guys do and get immersed in what you guys do. But outside of whiskey, and you can't give me a whiskey answer to this here, what's your McDonald's like? What's your guilty pleasure? Like, what do you do when you're not doing whiskey stuff? Are you reading books? Are you watching The Bachelorette? Are you going for hikes and trails? What is your thing that you do just to like switch off from the whiskey world, reset your brain, and then come back to doing what you guys do?
Well, my wife would basically say that I'm always thinking about whiskey. Over my shoulder, I'm like on an auction, I'm on spirits business, I'm looking at everything. Otherwise, I'm generally, I like to play badminton, and I recently played pickleball for the very first time, which was really interesting. I'm probably not the demographic for pickleball, but I enjoy my badminton, and nice. Otherwise, not much else. I genuinely, I'm sure Caroline will agree to this. I'm normally wired to work, but I'm really I think we're both in a pretty lucky space. I like to think you guys are as well, where I've heard you talk passionately about what you do, and I love what I do. I'm excited. I love the challenge. I'm ready to go to work every single day. Some days it is a total ball breaker. It is brutal, and you've got to deal with all sorts of shit. Especially in the past kind of 12 months, as we've been going through like fundraising and planning permission. It's just like some days you just want to explode, but I love what I do. Awesome. But out with that,
badminton.
What about you?
Dan, what about you?
Most of what I do revolves around my daughter, so flying solo, so that keeps me pretty busy. My mind was at a pitch to a nice lady in whiskey who might be looking for that. Why not? But
not another singles podcast. There you go. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. We're joined now by Simon, who's going to tell us all about his life with daughter.
I do lots of stuff, lots of walkies and hiking stuff, but my brain's always chewing on something. So when I'm not chewing on stuff here, it's work related. My turn off on the drive home, and then when I'm at home, I'm just constantly designing random crap related to whatever I'm interested in. So all kinds of endless stuff over the years, just random things I've come up with, some of which would be quite useful, but it's, I have to analyze them and go, right, this isn't better than what I'm doing. This might be a good little business for someone, or a company could have a good product out of this, but
Will
whiskey.
Phil get pissed off at me if I come to the table with this idea?
Yeah.
So they created.
It would need to be the absolute most no-brainer, I think, before you. But even then, so I'm fully committed. But I just have to chew on things and have to chew on design problems, and I just can't help myself.
The creative juices are always going, and you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that, you asked earlier about the dynamic between me and Simon. I kind of feel a degree of my responsibility as a business owner, co-business owner with my brother.
Handler.
It's handler, CIA handler. No, it's like, part of my responsibility is to allow Simon the time to really unleash his mind on these sorts of things. So when Simon pitched to me that he essentially wanted to build an off-grid solar-powered distillery in the north of Scotland, and we had to go out and raise millions of pounds for it, I was just told I was all in. Like, I didn't need to know. You can tell me the details, and I'll just try and understand it to the best of my abilities. But I just knew that he would have considered every single aspect of it in a way, all the minutiae, which it was going to work or it will work. Obviously we've got a cool full-time process engineer working with us, but. Yeah, I was fully confident. I was like, yeah, no worries. I will make sure you have the time, try and find you the time to do that. And I'll just keep an eye on the bank balance and make sure we can pay the bills. But yeah.
But as well, you can throw that at some products as well. So we've had a lot of fun with some Dornoch stuff with building out our crazy ballot system. We've got a couple of really cool projects in the pipe just now, which are very, very creative, and I think one of which particularly will kind of capture the current zeitgeist of where whiskey's at and the sort of a lot of the uncertainties around it. I think it'll be the perfect product for now. And it's through the Thompson brothers, getting a lot of our friends on board as well, and it's going to be a few months out because it'll probably be the biggest thing we've ever done in terms of both the output, but in terms of the overall effort that goes in behind one thing. I say one thing, it's a many-headed beast, but it's one.
I mean, Phil's been having a few drams since we've been talking here. He might get, can you spill the beans, Phil? I'm going to pick on you because I see you're having a couple of whiskeys. No, I'm kidding, guys. Look, guys, we're going to wrap up here in just a second. We actually had a load of questions from our listeners as well that we wanted to drop in, but a lot of those questions have been answered as we've gone through here, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things we like to do on the show, and we especially want to do it for you guys, is just, blatant plug for your products. Where can people go? Where can they find them? How can they also help you guys out building the new distillery?
Yeah, so ideally, go and buy on our own website so we get full margin. That'd be great. But we work with a lot of great independent retailers, so there's loads of great people out there. So just get on the search engine, search for our products, and don't necessarily buy from the ones that come up the highest, but go and find the cool independent people who do it. I'm a big fan of physical retail. I love I love walking into a shop and seeing something that otherwise you think wouldn't be available and trying to drive that experience.
Yeah.
So
we actually run our shop in Dornoch we call it offline stock. Yeah. So we keep a bit of everything held back, and then we bring in a bunch of archive stock, and it's offline stock. So the people who just wander in because they're up to see us or get lost and find us will just have an amazing selection of physical retail that's offline only. It's not the person who's hitting F5 the fastest or quickest off the mark. So it's quite fun still having that little bit of real life retail magic.
I suppose the best thing you could do to buy from us is to physically come to Dornoch and not only spend money with us, but come and spend money in the community. Go and stay in the hotels, go to the restaurants, go to the shops. We're in Sutherland. It's a long way from most places, maybe not quite as far away as Campbelltown, but it's a long way away. So go out of your way and come here.
And it's a beautiful part of Scotland as well. I highly recommend
it's amazing.
Going up there. And your bar is a dangerous place to be, man. There's a lot of tasty.
It is a good place to be. We've got some amazing bottles. And then with regards to support, we're going to launch, we think, a kind of public crowdfunding offering probably coming into the end of this year. So just kind of keep an eye on what we're doing.
There'll be a few little bits and bobs along the way. And of course, if any of your listeners have super deep pockets and feeling risky, then we'll be doing kind of a private round later on this year as well.
What's the disclaimer that you put at the bottom?
Oh yeah, you're not
allowed
to do financial promotions, are you?
No, not in the UK.
Yeah.
I think the securities agency in America, or the securities commission.
not an investment promotion. But if you're really wealthy and want to talk to us and love whiskey, then feel free. We're always up for a chat.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a joy to meet both of you. It's the passion that you have for what you're doing is unmistakable, and it's great to see the liquid quality that you're putting out and the affordability of such great whiskey is refreshing to see. So thanks for everything you're doing.
Cool. Thanks to you guys.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Absolutely. All right, Phil, Simon, great to see you guys. I'll see you guys next time. I'm up in Dornoch.